Welcome to my 216th video on my work with OO gauge. I was over to the train show in Woodstock, Ontario last Sunday, January the 15th, 2023, and I brought back quite a few things as seen here. So this video might have been titled Woodstock Train Show Haul, except that only a few of these items actually came from the train show. Most of these things came from Nigel of British Model Trains, whom I met at the show but who didn't actually have a vendor table. In fact, none of the vendors from whom I often buy British Railway items were selling at this show. In the whole show I only saw half a table of British Railway items, and there was nothing there that really appealed to me. I did pick up a few things in the way of tools and supplies at the show, but as I say, most of what I brought back came from my meeting with Nigel of British Model Trains. Anyway, let me just show you what I did bring back in a bit more detail. These are some wagons and kits that I bought recently through the British Model Trains web store. They're all older items with simplex couplings destined for use in my Hornby 00 trains. These should all be able to run 3-rail or 2-rail. The 6 in the outer 2 rows are ready to run wagons, the 3 in the middle are kits that I will build at some point. I'm going to have to take some time kit building soon, as I'm accumulating quite a backlog of kits awaiting building, but that's something to look forward to, as kit building is a relaxing and generally quite rewarding activity. I just haven't been doing that much recently because I've been busy with other things. These kits are all examples of an older type of Pico kit that features exteriors for the wagons printed on cardboard. I've bought several wagons in the past that were made from kits of this type, but I've never assembled one myself, so it will be interesting to see how that goes. The wagon at top right is actually a built-up version from essentially the same kit that's next to it on the left. All of these kits supposedly have working axle box springs. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Sounds potentially a bit fiddly. All of these items were actually very generously given to me by Nigel of British Model Trains. He doesn't generally deal in tin plate items, and he knows I'm interested in them, so he put all of these items, which came with a collection that he recently picked up, into a box and gave them to me at the Woodstock show. I'm very grateful to him. Apart from the items of rolling stock, Nigel gave me this box of miscellaneous 00 and Trix spares, some very useful stuff. There's lots of simplex coupling parts there, as well as some pickup parts, including a complete 00 centre rail pickup. This stuff will definitely help a lot with future conversion and repair work. Here are the wagons that Nigel gave to me. Almost all of them are Hornby 00 tin plate items, mostly suitable only for 3-rail running, although 1 or 2 do have plastic wheels, so they could run 2-rail as well. The Worthington Burton-on-Trent wagon was actually built from a Pico kit, home territory for me, as Burton-on-Trent is close to Leicester, where I grew up. In fact, I had a great aunt who lived in Burton. The town was famous for its breweries. This little wagon rather stood out as a particularly interesting item. It has a die-cast body rather than tin plate and is quite heavy. I thought at first that it was a Trix item, as I know Trix made wagons with die-cast bodies, and I'd never seen such a wagon from Hornby before. But this is in fact a Hornby 00 wagon, and it's an early type of track-cleaning wagon, which I'd never come across before. It has that sort of felt pad that sticks down between the wheels, and that pad goes right through the floor of the wagon, with the top of the pad sitting inside the wagon. Presumably the idea is that you'd put some kind of cleaning fluid onto the pad, or even just inside the wagon, and then run the wagon round your tracks to clean them. I think I'll give it a go on my 3-rail tracks with some 99% IPA. There were a couple of longer items, a 00 tin plate blood and custard brake coach, and a rather unusual Trix flat bogie wagon. Here you can see the bottoms of those items. I don't run British Railways stock, sticking basically to pre-war LMS, so the coach may end up getting cannibalised for spares. I'll try the bogie wagon and see how it runs on my 00 3-rail tracks. Finally, here's the stuff that I actually bought from vendors at the Woodstock show. At the right is a sheet of 5 thou thickness brass sheet. I've been using quite a bit of metal sheet recently, for one thing and another, so I thought this worth picking up. On top of the brass sheet is a bag of rather coarse coal. I already had quite a bit of coal on hand to use for tenders, wagon loads, coal yards, etc., but what I had on hand was all rather on the fine side for my taste, so I picked this up as it was in much larger chunks. At the bottom are 5 small screwdrivers that I got from another vendor. The top 2 are of the crosshead Phillips type, and the 3 bottom ones are for various sizes of flathead screw. I hate flathead screws, actually. They're just so much harder to work with than Phillips or socket head screws. But when working with railway models, especially older ones, it's often necessary to deal with small slot head screws, and I didn't have much of a range of small slot head drivers. I rather try to avoid the temptation to buy books, as my house is full of books as it is, and they do rather take up house room, but I couldn't resist the book scene here, as it seemed to be particularly well focused on my interests, and I'm sure I'll enjoy going through it. The book seems to be associated with the British Model Railways magazine, and features illustrated articles on a number of subjects related to British railway history and modelling. For example, this is the start of the second article on British tin-plate railway models. Here are the title page and the table of contents. Definitely a lot of stuff of interest to me there, more than I'd ever find in any single issue of a current magazine. I picked up a few items in the way of tools and supplies. Quite a few of the vendors were just professional hobby retailers selling stuff at normal retail price, and I don't generally bother with much of that at a train show, as I can buy that stuff through my preferred dealers as and when I need it. But bargains can often be found from individual modelers selling off stuff they no longer require. There's always potential for good strong black thread and string to come in handy. Finally, I bought this little box of odds and ends for a couple of bucks, mostly small nuts and bolts, but there are some electrical contact pieces in there as well, and I'm not entirely sure what the steel tubes in the middle left compartment are meant for, but maybe I'll find out. They might come in useful for something. So there we go, some rolling stock to run, some kits to build, some useful spares and materials for future projects, a couple of new tools, and a book to peruse.